Birthdays used to be a big deal in our house. Not the flashy, party hat kind, but the quiet, meaningful ones. A home-cooked meal. A small gift, always wrapped just a little crooked. A handwritten card from my wife that somehow said the one thing I didn't know I needed to hear. This year, I didn't ask for much. Just her. Just time. Work let me out early, and I stopped by the store to grab flowers. Nothing fancy, just the yellow ones she liked, the kind that reminded her of the field behind her grandmother's old house. I even picked up ingredients for her favorite lasagna. Yeah, I was cooking on my birthday. Didn't matter. That was always our thing. I'd cook, she'd set the table, we'd dance in the kitchen to some old Motown. Simple. Honest. Ours. I pulled into the driveway, smiling like a fool. The sun was still high, the neighborhood quiet, and I remember thinking, this is what getting older's supposed to feel like. Settled. Known. But when I walked inside, nothing. No scent of garlic. No candles lit. No music humming low from the speaker in the corner. Just silence. At first, I figured she ran out for something. Maybe ice cream. Maybe she was surprising me with something bigger. I set the groceries on the counter, flowers beside them, and called out, "Babe, you home?" No answer. That's when I noticed her phone, left unlocked on the kitchen island, screen still glowing. That wasn't like her. Curious, I stepped closer. The screen showed a paused video. Not a message, not a call. A video still. I tapped it, expecting maybe something funny she'd recorded for me, a birthday wish or a meme she saved to show later. But the second it played, my stomach dropped. There she was. In our bedroom, sitting on the bed, phone in hand, talking to someone on a video call. She was laughing. Laughing hard. But not at anything I'd said. Ugh, she giggled, flipping her hair back. He actually thinks I'm planning something sweet tonight. Poor guy. A male voice on the other end laughed too. I swear, he's so easy to play, she continued. Like a puppy that brings you gifts for no reason. I paused the video, hands shaking. I wanted to believe I misheard. Wanted to believe it was sarcasm. A misunderstanding. Anything but what it really was. A recording, maybe saved accidentally, maybe forwarded from the cloud, maybe never meant to be seen. But it was there, plain as day. My birthday surprise wasn't dinner. Wasn't dancing. It was finding out the person I trusted most had turned my love into a joke. I stood there, staring at her phone, as the image of her frozen mid-laugh burned itself into my mind like a scar. The kind of laugh that doesn't just dismiss someone, it erases them. I didn't replay the video. I didn't need to. It was seared into me now. I should have felt anger, fury, maybe. But what settled in first was confusion. Like my brain was trying to reroute reality through the sharp edge of disbelief. It wasn't just what she said. It was how she said it, effortlessly. Like mocking me was just part of her vocabulary now. I grabbed my phone and checked the time, 5:17 p.m. Still early. Still my birthday. Still time to pretend this day wasn't unraveling thread by thread. Her location was still turned on. She was 20 minutes away. The name of the cafe popped up, one I didn't recognize, probably new. I stared at the address, thumb hovering over it. Then I turned the phone over and set it face down on the table. If I walked in on her right now, if I stormed into that cafe and demanded answers in front of whoever she was meeting, I wouldn't get the truth. I'd get deflection. Denial. The kind of polished lies people keep in their pockets for moments just like that. So instead, I sat down. In my own damn kitchen. And I waited. I don't know how long I sat there, watching the flowers wilt slightly in the grocery store plastic. I didn't put anything away. Didn't touch the groceries. The lasagna noodles leaned against the bag of ricotta like they knew they weren't needed anymore. When I heard the front door open, I didn't flinch. She walked in casually, like nothing had happened. Keys jingling, purse swinging at her hip, smile half-formed until she saw me sitting at the table. "Oh," she said, stopping short. "You're home early." I nodded once. "Apparently so are you." Her eyes narrowed, just slightly, enough to read the shift in the air. "You okay?" she asked slowly, stepping toward the kitchen island. Her hand moved to her phone out of habit. I let her pick it up, let her unlock it, let her realize exactly what she left behind. Her thumb hovered over the screen, then she went still, and that's when she knew. She didn't try to lie. Not right away. She just closed the phone and set it down again, carefully, like it might explode. "What did you see?" she asked, voice tight. I leaned back in the chair. Enough. There was a pause. Not long, just enough for her to measure how much truth she was willing to give. "It wasn't what it looked like," she said. "Of course. The universal phrase of the caught and cornered. It looked like you were laughing at me, I said. Mocking me. Telling someone how easy it is to fool me. She shook her head, defensive now. It was stupid. Just venting. You're reading way too much into it. That's the problem, I said, standing. I've been reading not enough into everything for too long. She crossed her arms. So what? You're just going to walk away? Over one stupid moment? No, I said, voice steady. I'm walking away because that moment wasn't stupid. It was honest. The mask slipped. And now I know exactly what's behind it. She laughed, but this time it wasn't charming. It was cold. Frustrated. I give you everything, she snapped. And one little joke, and suddenly I'm the villain. No, I said, grabbing my keys. The joke wasn't the problem. The fact that I was the punchline. That's what broke this. I didn't yell. Didn't slam the door. Didn't throw the flowers or dump the lasagna ingredients in the trash. I just walked out. I didn't know where I was going yet. Maybe to Nate's place. Maybe just to drive until the silence in my truck sounded better than the laughter in that video. But before I started the engine, I opened my journal and wrote. She forgot the candles. Forgot the cake. Forgot the music. But she remembered how to laugh when my name was spoken. That was the gift this year. Truth wrapped in betrayal. And somehow, I didn't blow out a single flame. They did. I ended up at the edge of town, parked in front of the old overlook where we used to go when life was simpler. Back then, we didn't need much, just a view, some fast food, and the comfort of knowing we had each other. Now I sat in the same spot, hands gripping the steering wheel, wondering when each other stopped meaning together. The sun had dropped low, spilling orange over the hills like the world was bleeding in slow motion. I pulled out my phone and scrolled through old messages from her. Not to torture myself, just to see if I could spot the turning point. That quiet moment when sincerity started sounding like performance. When "love you" became punctuation, not purpose. And yeah, it was there, hidden in the late replies. The one-word answers. The shift from "can't wait to see you" to "don't be late." Little things. Small cracks. Ones I patched with patience and wishful thinking. I opened my journal and scribbled down. It wasn't the laugh that ended us. It was everything leading to it. The silence I ignored. The smirks I forgave. The way love started sounding. Like a line she rehearsed. I sat for a long time before texting the only person who wouldn't feed me platitudes. Me, you up? Nate, always. You okay? Me, not even close. Can I crash at your place? Nate, doors open. When I got there, he didn't say much. Just clapped me on the back and handed me a cold beer. What happened? He finally asked. I told him. All of it. The early leave from work. The video. The way she laughed. The words that stung more than any fight we'd ever had. He listened, jaw tight, shaking his head every so often. Man, I always thought something was off with her, he muttered. I didn't, I said quietly. I thought we were just tired. Busy. People don't joke like that about someone they love, Nate said. Not when they're alone. Not unless it's truth wrapped in a smirk. I nodded. Yeah. And it was my birthday, Nate. The one day you'd think maybe, just maybe, she'd give a damn. Did she apologize? I thought about it. She explained. That's not the same. Nate stood up and paced the room. You gonna go back? I didn't answer right away. Because the truth was, I didn't know. I'd built a life with her. A home. A history. And some part of me, the one trained to endure, still wanted to believe that maybe there was something worth salvaging beneath the betrayal. But then I remembered her face in that video. That grin. That effortless betrayal. I don't think so, I finally said. You can't unsee something like that. Good, he said. Because the guy who sat in front of that video and didn't lose his mind, that guy's worth more than a house built on half-truths. We stayed up late, didn't talk about her anymore. Talked about fishing. About the time we got lost on a camping trip and tried to build a compass out of a soda can. We laughed, real laughter. The kind that comes without guilt. That night, I slept on his old pull-out couch with springs that pressed into my back like quiet reminders. You're not home, but you're safe. Before falling asleep, I wrote one last thing in the journal. I brought home flowers. She brought home laughter. I thought love looked like effort, like cooking on your own birthday, like yellow petals in your palms. But now I see, love also looks like absence, like the space she left, the moment I became easy to mock. And this time, I let myself grieve, not just the birthday I lost, but the version of me, who kept waiting for her to show up. Honest. The morning after, Sunlight crept through Nate's half-broken blinds and landed on my face like it was trying to remind me life was still moving, even if I wasn't ready to catch up. I laid there for a while, the smell of burnt coffee drifting in from the kitchen. Nate never could get the timing right, but something about that clumsy, bitter scent felt more honest than the lavender candles she used to light to cover tension in our house. I finally rolled off the couch and padded into the kitchen. He was hunched over the counter, shirt inside out, eating a banana with zero ceremony. He looked up. "You look like hell." "Feels about right," I said, grabbing a mug. He poured without asking. We stood in silence for a minute before he spoke. "You gonna go back for your stuff?" I nodded. "I have to. At least to get the basics. Clothes. Documents. Journal." He tilted his head. "You sure she won't be there?" "I'll text first." He didn't say anything for a beat. Then, "You want me to come with?" That's when I remembered. There are friends who'll ask if you're okay, and there are friends who'll ride with you into the wreckage even when you say you're fine. "Yeah," I said. "I'd like that." We left an hour later. The drive across town felt different this time. The roads weren't unfamiliar, but they felt colder. Like I was heading into a place that used to be mine but had turned itself over to someone else. I texted her before we pulled into the driveway. "Me, coming by to grab a few things. Just need the house empty." Her, "Fine. Keys under the mat. I'm staying at Leah's." No apology. No questions. Just a clean pass to come and go. When we pulled up, I didn't hesitate. Nate stayed in the truck while I walked up to the porch. Everything looked the same, garden still over-trimmed, windchime tapping lightly in the breeze, paint chipped near the front door from the time I tried to hang Christmas lights too fast. But none of it felt like mine anymore. Inside, the house was still, almost too still, like it was holding its breath. I walked straight to the bedroom, grabbed the duffel I kept under the bed, and started loading it with clothes, essentials only. Shirts. Jeans. My old hoodie she always hated. The one she said made me look like someone trying too hard to stay young. Funny how that became the first thing I packed. In the nightstand drawer, I found the small wooden box Mia made me in art class. I opened it. Inside was a rock, flat, polished, with a tiny note taped to it that read, "You are strong." Like this. I held that rock like it weighed more than any betrayal she ever threw my way. Then I found my journal. Right where I left it, top drawer of the desk in the spare room. I flipped through it quickly. All the entries still there. Unread by her, as far as I could tell. I don't know if that made me feel better or worse. But it was mine. Every word. And right now, that mattered. As I zipped up the bag, I paused. Looked around the room one last time. This was the house where we built promises. Painted walls. Laughed over takeout on the floor before we bought furniture. It deserved better than how it ended. I walked to the fridge, pulled the sticky notepad from the side, and scribbled a final note. "Don't worry. I didn't take anything. That wasn't already mine. I left it on the counter." Then walked out. Back in the truck, Nate didn't ask how it went. He just handed me another coffee, gas station kind, too sweet. I took a sip and stared ahead. "Felt like walking through a movie set after the actors are gone," I said. "Like everything's still standing, but none of it's real anymore." He nodded. "And now?" I opened the journal on my lap, flipped to a blank page, and wrote. I didn't slam the door. Didn't curse her name. Didn't take back what I gave. I just walked out. Because staying would have meant pretending I wasn't worth more than the version of me she joked about when she thought I couldn't hear. I didn't tell Mia everything. Not right away. She was at my sister's for the weekend, a last-minute arrangement I made after that night, pretending I just needed space to reorganize the house. She didn't ask many questions. Just hugged me tighter than usual and said, "I'll miss you, Dad." Now, 2 days later, I stood outside my sister's door holding a paper bag of Mia's favorite snacks and a book we'd been reading together. I'd practiced what I wanted to say at least a dozen times. None of it felt good enough, but I wasn't going to lie to her. Not the way her mother had lied to me. When she opened the door, she threw her arms around me like she hadn't seen me in months, even though it had only been 48 hours. "Hey, sunshine," I whispered, kneeling to her level. "You doing okay?" She nodded, eyes wide and searching. "Are you?" I stood and glanced at my sister, who gave me a quiet nod and disappeared into the kitchen. Mia sat next to me on the couch, crisscrossed her legs, and waited. I didn't sugarcoat it. "Mom and I are taking some time apart," I began, "just to figure out some things." "Are you getting divorced?" she asked, her voice calm, not afraid. "Not yet. I don't know," I answered honestly. "We're talking." trying to understand where things went wrong. She nodded slowly. Was it the way she talks about you when you're not there? That hit harder than anything I'd prepared for. I blinked, surprised. You've heard it before. She looked down. Sometimes. With Aunt Leah. And Nana. It always made me feel weird. Like she didn't see the same dad I see. I reached out and took her hand. Thank you for being honest. That means a lot. I didn't know if I should say anything, she continued, chewing her lip. But when I saw that video on her phone, I couldn't let you not know. That was brave, I told her. And I'm proud of you. She leaned against my side. I want you to be happy, Dad. Even if it means we have to live in two places. It shouldn't take a 12-year-old to teach you what dignity sounds like. But there it was. That night, after Mia fell asleep with her head on my arm and the TV humming low in the background, I slipped out from under her, grabbed my journal from my bag and stepped onto the balcony. The air was cool, clean. A few cars rolled by below. Somewhere in the distance, a dog barked like it had something worth saying. I opened to a new page and wrote. She saw it first. Not the lie, but the difference. Between the man I am, and the version they spoke of, when they thought no one was listening. My daughter reminded me, that love should never be a secret you have to keep quiet about. The next day, I met Sarah at a neutral spot, a park near downtown with long walking trails and benches that didn't invite lingering. It was her idea. She wore sunglasses, pulled her hair back like she always did when she didn't want to be read too easily. We sat 6 feet apart. The distance felt intentional. She spoke first. I didn't expect it to get this far. I did, I said. The moment I heard your laugh, I knew the version of us I'd been holding on to didn't exist anymore. She took off her glasses, eyes red but not tearful. It was cruel, what I said. I know that. I wasn't asking for an apology, I said. I was asking for clarity. And I got it. I don't hate you, she said quickly. That doesn't mean you respected me. She looked down. I stood up. I'm not here to relive it. I'm here to tell you that Mia deserves better. And from now on, I'll be the father she can trust to show up, even if that means not pretending anymore. Are you filing? She asked. I haven't decided, I replied. But I'm not afraid to. She didn't argue. And that silence, that lack of fight, told me more than any shouted plea ever could. Back at Nate's, I opened the journal one more time before bed and wrote, when they stop fighting, to keep you, that's when you realize, you were fighting for two. And healing doesn't always come from closure. Sometimes it's born from walking away, without dragging what never belonged to you in the first place. It was strange how quickly the dust settled once the storm passed. No more surprise texts from her. No last-ditch calls or dramatic "we need to talk" messages. Just a long stretch of quiet days, as if she'd already accepted that I wasn't coming back, not in the way I used to. Mia came back to stay with me on Wednesdays and every other weekend. I rented a small apartment near the edge of town, nothing fancy, just 2 bedrooms, a decent kitchen, and a balcony that overlooked more concrete than sky. But it was mine. And more importantly, it was safe. She helped me set it up. We made a project out of it, bought curtains together, picked out a lamp shaped like a robot for her room, even painted one wall blue because white walls feel like hospitals. I let her take the lead, because I didn't want to build a new space that carried the weight of the old one. One night, after pizza and homework, she asked if she could hang a photo on the fridge. Of course, I said. She pulled one from her backpack. It was a picture I didn't even know existed, me and her, sitting on the tailgate of my truck, eating ice cream last summer. My arm was around her, and we were both laughing. Genuinely, fully. Mom took it, she said. Back when she still liked taking pictures of us. I took the photo and stared at it for a long moment. Then I hung it on the fridge with a magnet shaped like a star. Looks good there, she said. Later that night, when she was asleep and the apartment was wrapped in stillness, I pulled out my journal. There were only a few pages left now. The edges were worn, and the spine had given up holding everything tight. Like the story itself had grown too big for the cover. I wrote, this place has no memories. Yet, but it holds peace. It doesn't echo with old fights, or carry the scent of promises never kept. It holds new light, quiet, but honest. That weekend, I dropped Mia off at her mom's. Sarah came to the door wearing a plain sweatshirt, no makeup. She looked tired, smaller, somehow. Mia hugged me tight. See you Wednesday. Count on it, I said, kissing her forehead. Sarah stepped outside as Mia went inside. I've been going to counseling, she said. By myself. Just thought you should know. I nodded. That's good. I've been unpacking a lot, about my parents. About how I learned to survive by shrinking the people around me, especially the ones who loved me the most. I didn't say anything. She kept going. I used to tell myself I was realistic, but the truth is, I just got good at cutting people down so I could feel taller. Her eyes searched mine. You were the first person I ever met who didn't ask me to shrink, and instead of honoring that, I made you feel small. I stayed, I said softly, longer than I should have, because I kept hoping you'd see me the way I saw you. I see you now, she whispered. It's too late to matter, I replied, but not too late to change, for Mia. She nodded. I know. And for the first time, I believed she did. I turned to leave, but she called out, David? I paused. I hope someone loves you the way you loved me, she said, fully, kindly, without needing to be convinced. I didn't respond. I just gave a small, tired smile, because that kind of love, it was mine now, and I'd never give it to someone who didn't know what to do with it again. Back home, I wrote, she saw me, too late, but even late vision is better than blindness. And in her recognition, I found something I thought I lost. The man who could be loved for exactly who he is. Spring came early that year. The trees outside my apartment were starting to bloom, little splashes of green creeping out from bare branches. Mia called them hope buds, which made me laugh more than I expected. Maybe it was the way she said it, like it was the most natural thing in the world, that the trees remembered how to begin again. I was starting to feel that way too. Not whole, not entirely healed, but beginning. Work picked up. Long hours, dirty hands, honest labor. The kind that quiets your thoughts, at least for a while. And for the first time in a long time, I wasn't looking at my phone every 5 minutes, wondering when something would fall apart. One Friday afternoon, just as I was locking up the shop, I got a message from Claire. We'd known each other for years. She ran a bookstore downtown, always remembered my name, always saved a copy of the journals I liked before they went out of stock. She'd been there in the background of my life, never intrusive, just present. Claire, got something in I think you'll love. Swing by if you're free. I didn't hesitate. When I walked into the shop, it smelled like paper and cinnamon tea. She was behind the counter, wearing her usual cardigan and messy bun, flipping through a worn-out paperback. Thought I'd find you here, she said with a smile. What did you find this time? I asked, stepping up to the counter. She slid a thin book across the wood. Hardback, navy cover. No title on the front, just a single embossed feather. It's blank, she said, but it felt like you needed a new one. I picked it up, flipped through the smooth, untouched pages. Looks like a promise, I murmured. She nodded. Or a challenge. We talked for a while, about books, about Mia, about how hard it is to start over when you're still carrying the weight of being overlooked. She didn't ask about Sarah, didn't need to. Somehow, she always knew when to leave space unfilled. Before I left, she said something I still haven't forgotten. You didn't fail because she stopped seeing you. You just stayed too long after you stopped seeing yourself. That hit harder than I wanted it to. Back home, I tucked the new journal into my nightstand. I wasn't ready to write in it yet. Not until the old one was done. But I was close. That night, Mia and I made grilled cheese and tomato soup, her idea. She said it was comfort food for broken days. We curled up on the couch and watched cartoons like we used to before everything got complicated. After she went to bed, I sat out on the balcony again. The air was warm enough to skip the jacket. I opened the old journal, its spine cracked, its pages bent from use, and flipped to the second-to-last page. I wrote, healing doesn't always roar. Sometimes it's a grilled cheese sandwich. A new notebook with clean pages. A quiet woman in a bookstore, who sees you, without needing your story to bleed. Sometimes it's your daughter, laughing again. Sometimes it's just you, breathing without waiting for the next apology. I leaned back in the chair, staring at the stars. For the first time in months, I didn't feel like I was chasing clarity. I was already holding it, not because everything was fixed, but because I'd finally stopped trying to fix things that weren't mine to repair. I saw Sarah again the following week, but this time, it wasn't planned. Mia had forgotten her sketchbook at my place, the one she used like a second diary. She called me in a panic before bedtime, said she needed it for art class the next morning, so I offered to drop it off. It was late when I pulled up to the old house. Porch light on, curtains drawn, same wind chime still clinking in that hesitant way, like even it wasn't sure what to say anymore. I knocked. Sarah answered in sweatpants and a faded hoodie, hair pulled back, no makeup, barefaced and tired. She looked like someone trying to be ordinary again. I held up the sketchbook. Emergency delivery. She smiled softly. She told me, "Thanks for bringing it." I handed it over and turned to leave, but she stepped out onto the porch. "You've changed," she said behind me. I paused. "Not in a bad way," she added quickly. "You just seem lighter. Like you're not carrying me anymore." I turned back, hands in my pockets. "That's because I'm not." She nodded like she already knew. "I used to think you were supposed to fix everything, carry the weight, absorb it. That's what love looked like to me. But it wasn't fair. I kept stacking more on your shoulders and calling it partnership." I didn't interrupt. "I see it now," she continued, voice shaking slightly. "You weren't supposed to carry me. You were supposed to walk beside me. And I never really let you." We stood in that quiet for a while, just long enough for the old porch boards to creak under us like a breath trying to hold itself steady. Then she asked, "Have you started writing in a new journal yet?" "Not yet," I said. "Still finishing the old one. Few pages left." She smiled. "I remember when you started it. Said it would be about life and growth. I didn't realize you'd grow out of me." I gave a sad smile. "Neither did I." She looked down, then back up. "Claire's a good woman." I blinked. "What?" "Mia mentioned her. The bookstore lady. Said she talks to you like you matter." There was no venom in her voice. Just quiet realization. "She does," I said. "But it's not romantic. Not yet. Maybe not ever. She's just steady." Sarah nodded. "That's what I always admired about you. I just didn't know how to return it." I looked past her, toward the window where Mia's night light glowed behind the curtain. "She deserves to see people being kind to each other," I said. "Even when it's over." "It's not over," Sarah said gently. "It's just not the same. And maybe that's okay." I didn't argue. Didn't agree either. Some truths just hang in the air like a branch bending under its own weight. When I got back to my apartment, I poured a drink, opened my journal, and sat at the kitchen table beneath the soft hum of the old ceiling fan. And I wrote. We stood on the porch. Like two people, who used to dance in the kitchen. She didn't ask me to come back, and I didn't offer. Because some bridges don't burn, they just stretch. Until both sides realize they were never walking toward the same thing. I closed the book. One page left, and I finally knew exactly what it would say. I saved the final page for my birthday. 1 year later, different apartment, same city. The calendar flipped a full circle, but this time, the day wasn't haunted. It didn't come with dread or quiet expectations. No trembling fingers checking the door. No flowers bought to prove something. Just breath. I woke up to sunlight through half-open blinds, the smell of cinnamon toast coming from the kitchen. Mia had stayed over the night before, her idea, and apparently decided to surprise me. I walked in to find her standing barefoot on a stool, trying not to burn the second batch. "Happy birthday, old man," she grinned, handing me a plate. "No balloons?" I teased. She laughed. "Only if you want me to pop one in your ear." We ate on the couch, wrapped in blankets. Just me and my daughter, no performance, no pretense. And I realized, this was the first birthday I hadn't wanted more. Later that morning, she handed me a wrapped box. "You're not supposed to spend your allowance on me," I said. She rolled her eyes. "Just open it, Dad." Inside was a small leather journal. Dark brown. Unused. Clean. But what caught me was the first page. She'd written something at the top in her careful, slightly slanted handwriting. "Start this one with joy." I ran my fingers over the words, throat tightening. "You're gonna make me cry on my birthday?" I asked. "That's the point," she smirked, curling back under the blanket. That evening, after I dropped her off at Sarah's, I didn't drive straight home. I went to the lake. It wasn't a fancy place, just a quiet spot at the edge of town, with a few benches and a dock that creaked under your weight. I'd come here as a kid, brought Sarah here once, years ago, but I'd never come alone, not until now. I sat on the edge of the dock and pulled out the old journal, the one I'd carried through it all. Its pages were worn, corners bent, binding nearly split, but it was still whole. Like me, I flipped to the last page. The very last one, the one I'd waited a year to fill, and I wrote, "Last year, she forgot the cake, forgot the music, forgot the man who loved her, more than himself, but this year, I remembered everything, the weight I dropped, the daughter I kept, the dignity I reclaimed." When I walked out, without slamming the door, this journal held my pain, but this page holds my power, because I am not what she laughed at. I am not what they whispered about. I am not the joke. I am the man, who stayed kind, who kept showing up, who let go, not out of bitterness, but because peace deserved a place in my life too. I closed the journal, held it in my lap. Then, without drama, without ceremony, I stood, walked to the edge of the dock, and tucked it into my jacket. Not to throw it away, but to take it home, where it belonged. The old story, complete. The new one waiting. One written in joy, on clean pages, by someone who finally knew his worth. The next morning, I walked into Claire's bookstore for the first time in weeks. She looked up from behind the counter, smiled that slow, knowing kind of smile, the kind that tells you don't need to explain much because the person in front of you has already been reading between the lines. You finish it? She asked, already reaching for the kettle. I nodded. Last page last night. She poured hot water over 2 mugs and slid one my way. How'd it feel? Like putting down a bag I didn't realize I'd been carrying uphill. We sat in the reading nook, same spot we'd always taken, the big window seat with the worn cushion and the view of the busy street we never paid attention to. It wasn't dramatic. No tears. No speeches. Just calm. That rare, earned kind of calm. You know, I said, staring into my mug, a year ago, I thought my birthday was ruined. But looking back, it was just the start. Claire sipped her tea, said nothing. Just nodded, like she'd known that all along. I pulled the old journal from my bag. She raised her eyebrows. That the war book? Every battle, every bruise, every rebuild. I flipped it open and showed her the last page. She read it silently. Her fingers brushed the edge of the paper like it was something fragile. You ever going to let anyone else read the whole thing? She asked. I shrugged. Maybe Mia. Someday. When she's older. She's already wise, Claire said softly. But that would teach her even more. About how strength doesn't always look like fists or shouting. Sometimes it looks like a man setting down his pride and choosing peace instead. I nodded. She taught me as much as I ever taught her. We didn't talk for a few minutes. Just let the tea steep and the bookstore hum with its quiet rhythm, pages turning, footsteps on hardwood, the soft shuffle of a life that doesn't need noise to feel full. After a while, I pulled out the new journal, the one Mia had given me, the one that still smelled like the paper aisle at the craft store. I handed it to Claire. Would you? She tilted her head. What? Start it? Yeah. She smiled, uncapped a pen from the counter, and opened to the first page beneath Mia's little inscription. Start this one with joy. She wrote just 5 words beneath it. You already have. Keep going. I don't know why that hit me so hard. Maybe because she said it without flinching, without doubting. Maybe because no one had ever told me to keep going without also handing me an expectation to meet. I closed the journal gently, stood up, adjusted my jacket. I think I'm ready, I said. For what? Claire asked. To write a story, I said, that doesn't begin with heartbreak. She smiled, eyes warm. Then you better hurry. That kind of story doesn't wait around forever. Outside, the sun was bright but not harsh. The city moved like it always had, but I moved different now. I drove to pick up Mia. She ran out of her mom's house with that same bounce in her step, backpack swinging, joy unapologetic. She hopped in the car and immediately reached for the journal in my passenger seat. Did you start it? She asked. I grinned. Actually, a friend started it for me. What did they say? I handed it to her. She read the 2 lines, then smiled big and proud, like she was part of the journey, which, of course, she was. Later that night, she fell asleep on the couch while we watched one of those cheesy adventure movies she secretly loved. I picked up the new journal, opened to the next blank page, and finally put pen to paper. Not out of pain, but out of presence. And I wrote, this story doesn't begin with betrayal. It begins with survival. With peace that was earned, not given. With a man who remembered his worth. On the day everyone else forgot it. And this time, he wrote the ending himself.